mentioned, I'm Jessica Mundt. I've been with the program for about seven and a half years now. I started off in the Alexandria VCP. I was a lab manager there, and have just, kind of worked my way up and have taken on a bigger role with the VCP. I love this program. It is one of the most innovative ideas I've come across. I'm an archaeologist by training, but I do a lot of volunteer work in my personal life, and I always have. And it really marries those two things for me and for a lot of people in the program. So the Veteran Curation Program is a program that hires veterans in paid positions, paid temporary positions, to curate archaeological collections that are owned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So that's kind of the gist of our program, but I do want to get into how the program started, because I think it's really interesting. And it's also relevant to our mission. So in this slide, you'll see Dr. Sunny Trimble, who's over here on the, I guess it would be on the left. He was kind of the brain behind the beginning of the program. He has since retired, but he was the director for, I have a lot of kind of acronyms up at the top there. I'll go through those quickly, but he was the director for the Mandatory Center of Expertise, which is the Office for Cultural Resources for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and that's out in St. Louis. He's an archaeologist by training. Like I said, he's since retired, but he's still active in the program. Back in 2006, he headed up the mass graves excavations in Iraq, and those excavations produced the evidence and the information that was needed to ultimately hold Saddam Hussein accountable for genocide and war crimes. So, he took his team of specialists out there, photographers, archaeologists, catalogers, just a lot of people that have, background in those sorts of things, a lot of specialists and professionals in different fields to do all of that work. While he was out there, he got to know many service members. They set up kind of a perimeter for him and his team, and created a safe space for them to be able to do their work effectively and efficiently. And he and his team were very thankful for that, of course. Once he got back to the US, he started to reconnect with some of those service members, and he found that a lot of them were starting the process of separating, and they weren't in a great place. They're having trouble finding work past the military, and just making that transition into civilian life. At the same time, I mentioned before, he was the director for cultural resources for the Army Corps of Engineers. So he had this other issue. He, was ultimately responsible for making sure that all of the artifacts that are owned by the Army Corps of Engineers were suitable for long-term storage, and that those would be accessible for future researchers. So he took those two, issues, and he put them together to find a solution for them in the program that is now the Veteran Curation Program. So, like I said before, we hire veterans to curate archaeological collections. I'll get into a little bit of the details about the program. We have four flagship locations, I should say, and those are kind of our bigger labs. Those are located in Alexandria, Virginia, Augusta, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, and San Mateo, California. We also have two university facilities, and those are at the University of Arkansas and Texas State University in San Marcos, Texas. So we run typically 2 5-month sessions each year, and then we have a month off between each of those sessions. We offer part and full-time positions. Right now, we're running at kind of a reduced class size. We have 18 veterans in our program right now. Next session will probably be at similar numbers, and this has been due to just like everybody's been impacted by COVID-19, and we've had to reduce our staff numbers just to be able to keep up with social distancing and to make the labs a safe place. We're hoping we'll be able to expand again, not this coming session after.
Jessica, when you reach out for recruits for your program, please send emails to us so we can post it on our site.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was actually just thinking I hadn't sent the flyer to you yet. I don't think you have it unless one of
Yep.
our other managers have done it, but I will send that for sure. Um, yeah, which brings me to the next point. So we are recruiting now. So we're kind of gearing up for our next session, which is set to begin in May, beginning of May. So if you know of anybody, that might be interested, now's the time to get an application over. Let me go through a couple other slides. I jumped ahead on myself a little bit. So let me go through a couple other things, and I can get back to that too. Okay, so why are collections used to train veterans? So first of all, I want to point out that all of this is really important work. We are literally handling the nation's heritage, and our goal is to curate these collections so that they're available for future research. A lot of what archaeologists do in the lab, equal transferable skills. So we are taking information that we gather, we look at each artifact, we identify the artifact, and then we write down all of the information associated with that artifact. Ultimately, that goes into a database. So each of the technicians acquire a lot of experience using different Microsoft Office programs, especially Excel. That's a big one for us. Records management, just getting in there and being able to organize records and kind of those general office skills that come with that. As was mentioned before, a big part of our program is photography. We have a photography trainer that works from anywhere from 2 to 4 hours training each technician, and then they're given all the help and support they need to photograph artifacts throughout the session. And that's a skill that some technicians have taken, and they have been able to transfer that into positions as photographers later on. Like I said, software proficiency, organization, and just kind of a general knowledge about history and archaeology, and just this, we like to call, part of one of the other benefits of the program is just creating kind of stewards of cultural resources. So a lot of the technicians that come back to us, veterans who have gone through the program, come back to us and say, hey, I didn't even know I had this great park down the street that has a Civil War fort. Did you know that? And they'll talk to us about these things. So people become kind of more engaged in their community and engage with the natural and kind of cultural resources that are around them. Anytime you can get people out into their community more and making those connections and just being a part of things outside of their door, I mean, those benefits just, I don't know, they're exponential. You're just creating more connections between people and taking care of people locally. So those are just kind of extra benefits of the program that we've seen. And then just getting people back into an office setting. A lot of times we'll have, especially now, following the pandemic, people have been pretty shut in. So getting people back into a physical office setting, talking with other people, especially talking with other veterans, and kind of going through the transition into the civilian workforce together with other people who are going through the same thing. It's been a big benefit of the program. This is what it looks like. The work that we're doing in the labs is really satisfying. So you'll see the top row there. That's what collections look like as they come into our labs. They're a mess. They're in all kinds of storage that isn't fit for permanent curation. And we get them into these beautiful boxes there on the bottom. Everything is labeled, everything is organized, everything is put into rehoused into materials that will last for a long time, so that future researchers can use all of those artifacts and all of those documents to interpret sites and increase our knowledge of history, as these collections are used in the future. Benefits for participants, I've mentioned a lot of these, but these are some other things. As I mentioned, part and full-time work. We really do our best to accommodate the veterans that are in the program. We understand that the veterans are working through things and trying to, maybe they have a disability claim in and they're trying to work through that, and they need to use our office space for an hour that day to just have a phone call with their doctor so they can move forward their disability claim, or they need to whatever it is, we're very flexible with that. You need to take an hour off. We're going to accommodate you. We also, another part of our program is what we call professional growth and development. And that's where we offer, depending on how many hours, we might offer anywhere between an hour up to 3 hours per week, paid time for veterans to work on, getting to that next step in their life. So it could be applications for school. We always help the veterans with their resumes. We'll do mock interviews, help write cover letters, apply for jobs. I mean, whatever they need to get to that next step, we're there for them. We also invite guest speakers into the facility, and that can be on a range of topics. Sometimes it's a local archaeologist that's talking about a recent discovery. Sometimes it'll be, I don't know, a nutritionist, or maybe a lot of veterans in the program at that time are, trying to get, on a better track as far as their health, and we'll have maybe a nutritionist talk, or, a personal trainer, or something along those lines. It can really run the gamut. Benefits to the nation. Like I said, this is really important work. We're handling the nation's heritage. So it is not, by no means is this busy work. This is stuff that is federally mandated. These collections are required to be kind of brought up to federal mandate. So what the veterans are doing is really important work. And again, all of the work that they do benefits them by allowing them to develop those transferable skills. Okay, these are our kind of metrics. There are so many ways that veterans benefit from the program, and they don't all fall into these categories. So I don't always love promoting these metrics, but it's a good way to understand some of the successes that come out of the program. So we've had nearly 700 veterans that have gone through the program. 91% of the veterans have obtained employment, or they've continued their education. And then we've also processed 440 collections owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. What do the veterans go on to? Everything. You do not need to be an archaeologist to be part of the VCP. In fact, the majority of the veterans that come through our program are not archaeologists. They're not looking to go on to anything related to the field. Many go on to IT positions. A lot go into federal employment. Some have gone on to Tim in the center there. He was a former VCP lab manager. He was also a VCP graduate, went through the program, and now he works for a veterans organization out in St. Louis, and he still comes in and serves as a guest speaker for our VCP lab in St. Louis. So there's just so many, the possibilities are endless. And I'll say also, as far as our professional growth and development, the lab managers work very closely with the veterans in the program to be sure they get everything they need. But if there's something that, we don't have the resources or the knowledge to really help somebody with, we do a lot of work to kind of make our network and to be able to connect people with other resources so that they can, get wherever they need to get. So